Grunt Gaming here, bring you another podcast. And to start off this time, we have Fallout 4, what's wrong with the game, and why we think it's not necessarily as playable as a game like Skyrim from the same publisher.
Yeah, Fallout 4, definitely a very popular game. Has a fan base, obviously. And we're not saying it's a bad game at all.
No.
But the game, to us, feels very soulless compared to Skyrim. And this mainly comes from the world itself. And I'll use Far Harbor as an example. You go into the main Fallout 4 world. What I was so excited to explore the world because, we grew up around Boston, not, 40 minutes away.
Yeah.
So I've been to Boston a lot growing up, and I was really excited to see those landmarks or lack of landmarks in the future world, post-apocalyptic world. And I was looking forward to seeing all these different areas that, people live in now. And that's really where it failed, because other than Diamond City, all the other cities in the world feel really lifeless.
They're not cities. They're
just a group of NPCs walking around in a circle.
And a couple burnt down buildings that are clearly, post-apocalyptic as expected. But there isn't much for the player to relate to when they're going through it.
Yeah.
And
what it's really lacking is when you go into one of these areas, you kind of expect like a slew of side quests from one of these towns.
Yeah, a quest hub basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like a quest hub, and I understand kind of moving away from that because that's kind of like been the standard in games. But even if it wasn't a quest hub in each town, I would expect a quest line with that town, and because you never really get those. Each town really feels like the next town. The Fallout 4 does have some great side quests. The Chinese sub, I think the town is called Covenant, where you take a part of kind of like a Turing test.
Yep.
Seeing if you're synth or not. And other side quests that I'm just drawing a blank on right now. I think when it does side quests, it does them very well. I think what it lacks in is building this world that keeps you invested, because a lot of the times I would just go out into the world not to see more of the story, just to collect resources for building my settlement.
Yeah, and my experience with the game is very similar. And you mentioned the Chinese submission, and I actually had read about how there was this amazing side quest, which was the Chinese submission, and I wanted to play it so badly that I looked online where it was on the map to go and find it and play it. And like that right there brought me back to Oblivion in Skyrim. Like, oh wow, there's this really neat quest that I'm going to find out some lore about and some backstory and some context on the world that I'm in, and it will immerse me more because I'll feel more invested and more a part of this world that is hopefully living in this game, and it drags me in through that quest and through those experiences and through those relationships you have with the NPCs and the characters in the game, and the dialogue that you have. And like you said, that's where it lacks. Like these cities that you go to, or these towns, like you go into Lexington. Lexington's not a small place. You go to Lexington in this game, it's tiny. It's a couple buildings. It's a conglomeration of buildings, and that's it. And like there's a couple raiders there, and then you can pick up a fat man off of one of them and some power armor, and then you leave, and that's all you get. And like that's not what I would consider anything that you can count as a quest hub, and I understand moving away from quest hubs, but that doesn't mean removing quests.
Yeah.
There is a trade-off. You have to include some form of side quests that give you more insight into the lore and the backstory of the world that you're in, other than just having to read through terminals.
Yeah.
And
I've done all the side quests in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I did, like you, go to websites, look up where they are and everything like that. I did all the ones that was available to me as a Institute player. And
Institute.
Institute. Well, we're not. So I just want to summarize that we're not saying what's wrong is the quality of the side quests.
No.
I think the quality of them, for the most part, is actually very good. I think what's wrong is just the quantity. I understand that's kind of what happens when like you're trying to make quality side quests. You know, you're not gonna have as many. But I would be okay with some fetch quest with some dialogue if it explained more of each town and each area.
Yeah, and to kind of tie this into, you know, Skyrim a little bit and kind of the differences, and the main difference I see is, and we've touched upon it, is the towns, but the name of that town, which is basically just a big Dwemer ruin, is Marthal, right? Markarth. Markarth in Skyrim is amazing. It has its own storyline behind it. It's the people there are affected by the lore behind it, and you can see that in each NPC. And there's side quests going on. There's a Daedric side quest, and then you have this Dwemer ruin that you can go and explore, and it's massive, and it drives the community in that city, and provides the city with quest lines to give you and things to do. And that's the kind of thing that you expect out of that. But when you go into Fallout 4, the main city in that, which is Diamond City, is not only smaller than Markarth.
Any of the Skyrim cities.
It's smaller than any of the Skyrim cities, but definitely smaller than Markarth, and doesn't even provide as many quests as Markarth, and that's the main city in the game, and that's not the main city in Skyrim. So, like, that's kind of the comparison that we're trying to hit at, is that these cities that they have built, and even compared to Fallout 3, they don't. I hate to say that they, and I hate to say that they don't matter, but they kind of don't. Like, you don't feel invested in that city, and you don't feel like you really help that city at all.
Yeah. So we're gonna go on to our next topic. We've been talking a lot about Fallout, bringing up Elder Scrolls, and so now we're gonna just kind of a broad talk about ESO Morrowind coming out, Elder Scrolls Online. I'm gonna let you take this as our resident Elder Scrolls expert. So I'm going to kind of point you. What are you looking forward to most from this expansion?
The thing I'm looking forward to the most is... it's hard to say, but I think the thing I want to see the most, and I know I'm going to see because everything's confirmed at this point. It's just a matter of it releasing. Is a couple things, but the ability of playing a new class, I think, will add a lot of replayability to the game, because it will change how everything works in the entire world, which is kind of almost revolutionary for an MMO that's been out for almost 4 years, is now getting its first new class. It's going to change things a lot, and it's going to create new dynamics between you and other players in the world.
It's like when WoW released the Demon Hunter. Like,
it's
that's
a big
like a
deal.
Big change.
It's a huge change. It changes the mechanics of everything. Not only that, but this storyline, I think, is going to be really good. I always get myself hyped up for storylines, and sometimes they fall short if you rely on them being too good. I have a good feeling about this, and them, the connection between this and, Morrowind going forward, and creating that, the second era in Vardenfell, and how that, affects the third era of Vardenfell when you play in Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind.
I got another question. Sorry to kind of cut you off there. Thought you were done. So my question for you, because I was wondering this myself, are you happy that they're going to an area they've already been in a main camp, in a main entry from the Elder Scrolls series?
Yes.
Or would you rather have them gone somewhere new? Or would you rather have them save somewhere new for a main entry?
So I think them saving somewhere new for a main entry in terms of like a single player, not necessarily single player, but like a more, RPG, not MMO style game of Elder Scrolls, like Elder Scrolls 6. Save a new place for that people haven't seen. But for Elder Scrolls Online, I think it's a really good idea moving back to this place, because it's a place that not only veteran players will really appreciate, but new players who have heard about this will also appreciate and be able to relate with the older community who has experienced that. And I think it's a great place to bring everything to, and to kind of be the next step moving forward for Elder Scrolls Online. I think is really important. And this zone is going to be massive. They say it's the largest explorable zone in all of Elder Scrolls Online.
Bigger than Hrothgar. What was, I think, the big, almost as big as Cyrodiil, they said, right?
I think this is actually I could be wrong, but I think this might be bigger than Cyrodiil, and that's massive.
Cyrodiil's massive.
Cyrodiil is massive in this game.
All right, so I got something else to say. You said you're good with using an older game. Would you be okay with, because they have the eastern side of Skyrim? Would you be okay if they brought like back just the western side of Skyrim in another expansion? Or would you think that's going too far, bringing like only half of like an original area?
Yeah, I think that would be almost too far, bringing half an original area. I don't know where they would go. I'm not as, because obviously there's a lot that goes into this, and it's not just like they're like, okay, well this seems like a cool zone, and we'll just include this in and make some story behind it.
Yeah, they got to do a lot of things.
Like the people that develop these games, you know, Bethesda working on these games in ZeniMax, they actually have to go back and make sure that everything matches with the lore that they've already created.
Yeah.
That's like, I can't imagine how difficult, much of a headache that can be. Like they can't just go create a new zone and like. It's going to be difficult. So, yeah.
All right, so I'm going to hit you with one last question. My least favorite, I love ESO as a game. My least favorite area of it is PvP. I know they're bringing in that new 4v4v4,
Yep.
3 teams.
3 teams of 4 playing against each other.
Yeah, do you think that's going to make it more PvP more accessible? Or do you think that's going to be saved for people who are already invested into the PvP realm?
So, I think this is going to be a very accessible way to bring in an entire community. I think this is something that should have been implemented, or something like it, implemented much earlier. However, it's coming, and we can appreciate the fact that we're going to be able to experience it. And I think it is something that will, adopt new players, because we've had the experience, and in our guild in Elder Scrolls Online right now, we're trying to start this fight club, dueling club, where we get together and have dueling events.
Yeah.
And some of the main responses were like, well, I'm not really good at PvP, but I really want to get into it, and I just hate waiting and sitting in Cyrodiil trying to go find someone to fight, and when I do, I usually get overrun. You can't kill them, and like, this is a way to make a level ground with different objectives and more intense kind of arena-style fighting, 4v4v4, and it will require a lot of communication. It's just another layer that they're adding to the game, and I think it will bring in new players, and it will also, I think, be of strong interest to
returning
veterans who, and they're still right now in if you play in Cyrodiil, they have those weekly rewards depending on how well you do in your faction or in your alliance in that week, or during that campaign. I mean, mostly 30-day campaigns or 1-week campaigns. They're bringing in something similar, the same ranking system, depending on how well you do and how much you play of it, into Battlegrounds. So, you still want those same loot rewards, you still get them with this. And they're just creating new ways and new areas for people to be able to enjoy the game and have it be as accessible and more accessible. So, it's a big bonus. But
So that's it from Exotic Grunt this week. Make sure to keep checking our videos. We're loading up streams, gameplay clips, discussions, reviews. Keep trying to bombard you guys with content. Hoping you guys listen. We'll see you guys soon.
all right.